Hello everyone. So, quick question before we begin. Let's say you're on holiday and you want to take a picture, whether it's a picture of yourself or your friends or a landmark or food or anything. Would you simply just pick up your phone and take a picture and then carry on with your day? Or would you take a step back and maybe for 10-20 seconds think, how can I make this picture look a little bit more exciting? Most people fall into that first category, and there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But all I want to do today is to go through 3 quick tips on how to actually improve the composition in your photography. Basically, how to make your pictures look that little bit more exciting. And no, you don't need a super fancy camera or anything else like that. I'm literally just going to be using an iPhone just to demonstrate this. So, let's begin. To start with, we're going to need to activate the grid on your phone. And this is really straightforward. I'm going to show you exactly how to do it now. So, all these tips are going to be easier to use, and it's super simple to actually do this. This is what your phone camera looks like without the grid activated. So from here, what I want you to do is, and this is on an iPhone by the way, is to go into the general settings, into the camera, and simply turn on the grid function. Then it should look a little bit like this. It'll split your view into 9 little boxes, which will be very helpful to balance your image. If you're using Android, then most phones have a very similar way of activating the grid, but you just might have to play around with it first to figure out where it is. I'm going to be using my ridiculously over-the-top chess set to demonstrate these principles, and yes, the king is wearing some tape to cover his modesty, because this is a PG YouTube channel. There, that's why I've done it, alright. So, rule number 1. Perspective. Most photos that you will see will be taken at eye level, but just by getting a new vantage point, your photo can look dramatically better. You could consider above and below, but in this case it wouldn't be very effective as there's nothing really interesting to see from those viewpoints. You could go down to the level of the subject and see what life looks like from their point of view. This is already looking much better. You could also consider a close-up shot or a far-away shot, as well as shooting straight on compared to a diagonal. Choose whatever angle you like and improvise with this. You're not going to lose anything by trying out a new viewpoint. So you take advantage of the extra 10 seconds and you stand so much more to gain by doing something like that. Rule number 2 is a bit more complicated. This is what is called the rule of thirds. So this is where the beauty of the grid actually comes in. Let's say you want to focus on one particular piece out of this set. Let's just pick the bishop. If we isolate him for now, it'll make it easier to demonstrate this point. So 3, 2, 1, and there we go, all in his own. So what we're going to do is, rather than have him in the exact center of the frame, we're going to place him on one of these vertical lines. Play around with which side looks best, but I think the first third is probably going to be best for this. Where the horizontal and the vertical lines intersect is where we ideally want to place the main focus of the image. So in this case, let's just say it's the bishop's face. We could also use these lines to make sure the image is straight. If the chess table is straight along the bottom third and the bishop is straight along the vertical third, then the image is much more balanced and composed. Use this tip especially if you're going out into the landscapes and you're doing landscape photography. You want the horizon to be as straight as possible, not all wonky. So this photo is already looking more dramatic, and now we can add a bit of depth to it as well. And that is step number 3. Focus. I'm going to put our bishop back where he belongs and get all of his friends back together as well. And boosh, there we go. So this is a nice image as it is, but it's not obvious to the viewer who the main subject of the image is. So if we can add a bit of depth to our image, it can make the subject clearer and also put them in a bit of context too. In other words, who am I looking at and why am I looking at them? Why are they there? So let's bring our bishop forwards and apply rules 1 and 2 as well. We're at eye level and we're placing him on that vertical third line. Perfect. Your phone might have already focused at this stage, but you can place the focus wherever you like. If you click on the subject, then it'll pull all of the focus into the foreground and it'll make the background blurry. Alternatively, you can click on the background and that'll make the foreground blurry. Play around with what you think is best for each photo that you're taking, but in this case, I want to focus on the foreground. As a little side tip, on an iPhone you can also hold your finger down for about 2 to 3 seconds and that will lock the focus onto your subject. You can then move around without worrying about it auto-focusing on everything that it sees. This is going to be especially effective if there are lots of elements in your scenery. like grass or flowers or trees or insects, for example, if you're taking photos outside. To remove autofocus, just keep your finger held down for another 2 to 3 seconds and the message should go away. Another nice little side tip is that if you click on the image, then a little sun will appear as well. If you scroll your finger upwards on the screen, then this will increase the exposure, and if you scroll down, it will do the opposite. I won't go into detail in this video, but it's a nice little trick to add drama to your photos, which a lot of people often overlook. So I'll take this final picture now and look how much more dramatic and interesting this photo is compared to just seeing the full chessboard from eye level. We'll edit this photo in the next video using a free app that you can download, but we'll leave that there for today. You might use these tips just to make your Instagram feed look that little bit more interesting. Or you might use it for your Duke of Edinburgh award to improve your skills section. It's entirely up to you how to actually use these tips. So just to recap what we've learned, we've looked at 3 separate things today. Number 1 is perspective. Instead of working at just eye level, try going above or below, or close up, far away, diagonal, straight on, whatever you like, just to see which looks best. Number 2 was the rule of thirds. Use the vertical and horizontal rule of thirds to make the composition look more appealing. Place a key part where you'd like the focus on the intersection so that it's easier for whoever is looking at your image to understand where to look. Number 3, focus. The question should be, what is the subject in this image? Make sure the focus is on that subject, whether they are in the foreground or the background, and adjust the exposure if you think it's necessary. And those are just 3 quick tips. They take about 10 to 20 seconds to take into consideration, and they have a huge payoff when you use them correctly. I will go through more tips in other videos, but just use these today to get started, and in the next video, I'll show you how to edit them to bring them even more to life. Go out, explore, and I'll see you soon.